3:27 a.m. A quiet street in Valencia County, New Mexico. Most families were asleep. But inside one home, something unimaginable had just happened. 911, what's your emergency? The boy's voice was steady. Too steady. I just killed my family, he said. His name was Diego Leva. 16 years old. No panic. No crying. Just calm. Like he was ordering a pizza. The dispatcher asked him to repeat it. I shot my mom, dad, and 2 brothers. A pause. I think they're dead. One of them is gargling. I didn't help. That word. Gargling. Cold. Clinical. The dispatcher kept him on the line. Urging him to stay put. Urging him to put the gun down. To walk outside. Diego followed every instruction. Outside, deputies arrived. Diego was standing with his hands up. He looked blank. Like he wasn't really there. They took him into custody. No resistance. No emotion. Inside the home? A bloodbath. 4 family members. All dead from gunshot wounds. His father was found near the front hallway, as if he tried to escape. His mother and younger brothers were sprawled out in their bedrooms. The youngest? Just 7. News spread fast. A whole family. Gone. And the killer? Their own son. The next morning, the community was in shock. People who knew Diego described him as quiet. Polite. A little withdrawn, some said, but nothing alarming. A former classmate called him a good kid. So why? Why this? And why now? That question haunted everyone. But as the investigation unfolded, things didn't add up. Not even close. Investigators dug into Diego's life. No history of violence. No reported abuse. No bullying at school. No prior criminal behavior. But there were signs. Subtle ones. In the weeks before the murders, Diego had started skipping school. Teachers noted a change. He seemed distracted. Distant. One friend claimed Diego said he was seeing shadows. Another overheard him whisper something about being watched by something evil. Diego himself told police, I think I was possessed. By a bad spirit. Possessed? Was he delusional? Or trying to avoid responsibility? He passed a toxicology screen. No drugs. No alcohol. Nothing to explain the fog in his eyes. The flatness in his voice. Then came the journal. Found hidden in his room, under a loose floorboard. Spiral bound. Pages filled with messy handwriting. Ramblings. Prayers. Dark entries. They're not my real family. They wear masks. The spirit tells me they'll hurt me first. I'll free them before it's too late. The journal revealed a boy in crisis. Spiraling. But no one had noticed. Or had they? Here's where it gets strange. One of Diego's teachers came forward. She said she'd raised concerns with the school counselor weeks before the killings. He was dissociating, she said. It was like he wasn't in his own body. But nothing happened. No follow-up. No welfare check. And then, a bigger twist. A CPS worker anonymously leaked that a hotline call had been made about Diego just months earlier. But no action had been taken. The report? Diego was talking to someone who wasn't there and had become increasingly paranoid. Why was nothing done? Who dropped the ball? Back at the sheriff's office, Diego sat in a small interrogation room. No lawyer. Just him and 2 investigators. The footage is haunting. He stares at the table. Then says quietly, they weren't them anymore. What do you mean, Diego? They weren't my family. They looked like them. But they weren't. He insisted something had taken over them. That it was his job to end it. To save them. But was this schizophrenia? Or manipulation? Psychiatrists were brought in. Some believed he suffered from a psychotic break. Others weren't convinced. His behavior was too calculated. Too clean. The 911 call was not the voice of someone in crisis, one expert said. It was the voice of someone who understood what he had done. The prosecution was already preparing for trial. 4 counts of first-degree murder. They pushed to charge him as an adult. But the defense pushed back, citing mental illness. Arguing Diego had no grasp of reality. Families in the community were divided. Some saw a monster. Others saw a failed system that ignored red flags. And then, something even darker surfaced. A forensic technician analyzing Diego's computer found encrypted chat logs. And messages that raised a terrifying possibility. Diego wasn't alone. The messages were with someone calling themselves Azrael. They started 3 months before the murders. Azrael coached Diego, fed his delusions, encouraged him to unmask the imposters. They knew Diego's family members by name. Police traced the IP. It bounced through multiple VPNs. But a breakthrough came from metadata in an audio file Diego had downloaded. The origin, a laptop registered in Albuquerque. The sender was real. Who was Azrael? A predator? A cult recruiter? Someone Diego knew in real life? We don't know yet. But it changed everything. What started as an open and shut familicide became something else. Not just a crime of madness, but maybe a crime of manipulation, or something far more orchestrated. Diego Leva is behind bars, awaiting trial. The court has ordered a full psychiatric evaluation. The encrypted chats are now part of a federal cyber investigation. And one last thing. Just days ago, a new message appeared on an obscure online forum linked to the Azrael username. It read, "The boy was only the beginning." What happens when a system misses every red flag? What if Diego wasn't the mastermind? And what if others are being groomed right now? Hit subscribe. Stay safe. And stay curious. The dispatcher's voice was steady. She had no choice. On the other end of the line, a 16-year-old boy, calm, cold, almost mechanical. "I killed my family. All of them." The boy didn't stutter. Didn't cry. Just delivered the words like a grocery list. "They're dead. I shot them." Her training kicked in. Get his name, location, weapon. But then he said something that stopped her cold. "My dad's still gargling." He was dying. Right then. And Diego? He refused to help. Didn't check his pulse. Didn't move. He just watched. The audio would later be played for the public. It shocked even veteran investigators. Diego Leva. 16, no prior criminal history. Honor roll student. He sounded like he was describing the weather. And yet, inside that house, blood. Bodies. Carnage. Valencia County deputies arrived minutes later. Guns drawn. Unsure what they'd find. Diego stepped outside, exactly as instructed. He placed the gun down. Hands up. Not a single tear. Inside, they found horror. His mother, slumped in the kitchen. His 2 younger brothers, shot in their beds. His father, barely alive in the hallway, bleeding out. Gargling, just as Diego had said. It was calculated. Efficient. Almost military in its precision. Back at the station, investigators tried to put the pieces together. Who was Diego Leva, really? Photos painted a picture of normalcy. Barbecues. School awards. A Disneyland trip last summer. A family that smiled a lot. But what do smiles hide? Friends from school couldn't believe it. Teachers described Diego as quiet, polite, a little shy, maybe. But nothing that raised alarms. One neighbor said, they were the kind of family you wanted to live next to. No signs of violence. No CPS records. No drug use. No known mental illness. The picture wasn't just tragic, it was impossible. Then, the inconsistencies started. Based on bullet trajectories and estimated times of death. The murders likely happened at least an hour before the call. But Diego claimed it had just happened. Why the delay? And why did Diego act so detached? Officers noted something strange. He wasn't in shock. He wasn't remorseful. He was vacant. Investigators reconstructed the final day. Dinner was normal. No arguments. No shouting neighbors could recall. One of the little brothers had a video game tournament that night. His mom posted a photo, him holding his controller, smiling. That post went up an hour before he died. So what changed? Youth violence is rare. Family annihilation by a teen? Even rarer. But it happens. FBI stats say only 2% of familial homicides are committed by children under 18. And almost always, there's a history of abuse or trauma. But here? There was nothing. Psychologists interviewed said Diego's flat affect might point to dissociation. Possibly schizophrenia. Or something else entirely. Another chilling theory. Premeditation. Had Diego planned this? If so, why wait to call? Why stay in the house? The media exploded. True crime forums lit up. Was this a possession case? A cult? Conspiracy theorists ran wild. But experts urged caution. Because the reality was even more terrifying. Sometimes, there is no monster. No clear cause. Just a mask of normalcy, and the cracks we never see until too late. And then, 3 days later, an anonymous tip came in. A voice message left on the sheriff's tip line. A teenage boy. Voice trembling. Diego didn't act alone. He was scared. He told me he saw something in the house that night. The call was traced. A classmate of Diego's. He came forward. And what he said next changed everything. The boy claimed Diego had been talking about dark spirits for weeks. He said the house felt wrong. He believed something evil was living in the walls. At first, the friend thought it was just teenage melodrama. But now? Now he wasn't so sure. He said they weren't his parents anymore. He said Diego believed they'd been replaced. By what? Detectives researched the Lever home. And this time, they looked for something different. In Diego's room, under a loose floorboard, they found a spiral notebook. Full of disturbing drawings. Eyes without faces. People with mouths stitched shut. Pages filled with the phrase, "They are not who they say they are." Some pages were soaked in what looked like blood. And in the margins, scribbled over and over, "Kill or be killed." Was this psychosis? A descent into madness? Or was Diego influenced by someone else? A teacher mentioned something odd. Earlier that semester, Diego had done a project on urban legends. One of them? The replacement theory. A fringe belief that loved ones can be replaced by evil copies, mirrors, that look the same but aren't human. At first, it seemed like teenage creepypasta. But now? The notebook. The delay in the call. The calmness. Was this the twisted logic of a boy who thought he was saving himself? Toxicology reports came in. Diego had no drugs in his system. But, someone else did. His father. A sedative. Heavy. Not prescribed to him. Not in the house medicine cabinet. Where did it come from? And then, an even bigger shock. Diego's fingerprints weren't on the gun. Not on the handle. Not on the trigger. Not on the magazine. Nothing. Investigators froze. If Diego pulled the trigger, how? If he didn't, who did? The dispatcher still remembers the call. Not just what was said, but how it was said. "I killed my family. They're all dead. I did what I had to." No emotion. No regret. Just stillness. As if Diego Lever had rehearsed the words. As if he'd been waiting to say them. Experts have since studied that call. Voice analysts. FBI profilers. And they all agree on one thing. The tone wasn't shock. It wasn't panic. It was resignation. Like someone following orders. Or finishing a mission. But there was something missed the first time around. Background noise. At exactly 2 minutes and 17 seconds, just after Diego says his father is gargling. A whisper. Barely audible. Enhanced by forensic techs weeks later. It says, "Now you're free." Deputies at the scene hadn't known what to expect. They were ready for chaos. Screams. A teen in full breakdown. But Diego? He sat cross-legged in the grass. Hands on his knees. Staring at the house like it wasn't real. Deputy Harper said it felt like walking into a horror film. Blood smeared on the walls. Body still warm. And Diego, calm as ever. In his statement, Deputy Rios wrote, "He looked right through me. Like I wasn't there." Not fear. Not confusion. Something else. Detachment. As if Diego had already left. At the station, he barely spoke. When he did, the words made no sense. They weren't mine anymore. They wore their faces, but they weren't them. I saw it in their eyes. Hollow. Detectives pressed. Asked if he was hallucinating. He smiled. No. I was the only one finally awake. Investigators turned to the past for answers. His school record was clean. No fights. No disciplinary issues. Teachers said he was bright, if a little withdrawn. At home? No CPS involvement. No documented abuse. Just a regular suburban family. If this could happen in that house, could it happen anywhere? Then came the social profiles. Diego had a private Discord server. A chat room called the Mirror Room. Mostly empty. Except for one thread. Titled, "They Watch While You Sleep." Inside, cryptic posts. Eyes behind glass. You'll see the shift if you don't blink. I'm not the first. I won't be the last. Chilling. But vague. And then one message, timestamped 1 hour before the murders. Tonight they change. I won't let them. A friend came forward. A kid from school. Said Diego had told him about a presence in the house. He thought it was a metaphor. Depression. Maybe paranoia. But Diego swore it was real. They blink wrong, he told him. You ever see someone blink horizontally? Psychologists brought in by the court offered theories. Some suspected schizophrenia. Others pointed to adolescent dissociation. But there was one rare possibility that caught everyone's attention. Capgras syndrome. A psychological disorder where the patient believes loved ones have been replaced by imposters. It's rare. Less than 0.1% of the population. But in Diego's case, the signs fit. He didn't kill his family. He believed he was killing something else. Dr. Klein, the consulting psychiatrist, said it best. The terrifying part of Capgras? The person truly believes they are saving themselves. She called Diego's state psychotic but organized. Not delusional in the traditional sense. Functional. Logical, within his warped worldview. So now came the hardest question of all. Is someone responsible, if their reality is completely broken? 2 weeks later, evidence techs found something else. A second notebook. Hidden behind a wall panel in Diego's closet. Inside? Diagrams. Rituals. Words and languages no one recognized. At first, detectives thought it was teenage nonsense. Until they compared it to another case. 4 states away, in Colorado, 3 years earlier, another teen had killed his parents. The crime was almost identical. Same age. Same weapon. Same eerie calm. And he too had kept a journal. Filled with drawings of mirror people. The phrase "they're not real" repeated hundreds of times. Neither boy had ever met. No known connection. But the language in their journals? Identical. Investigators went deeper. Dark web forums. Hidden chat rooms. They found references to a group calling themselves the Watchers Behind Glass. An urban legend community? A cult? A hoax? One post stood out. The mirrors are thinning. The next vessel is ready. Lever, NM. Dated 2 days before the killings. There was no monster in the closet. No demon with red eyes. Just a boy. Alone in his head. And a belief system that twisted reality into a death sentence. The family was ordinary. The town was quiet. The signs, if they existed, were invisible to most. There was no clear villain. Only a vacuum. One where logic didn't live anymore. And yet, that whisper on the 911 call. FBI techs ran it again. Filtered background noise. Loud frequency bands. And the result? It wasn't Diego's voice. It was deeper. Quieter. Not from the phone line. Confirmed, it came from inside the house. The levers had a home security system. One that backed up to cloud storage. Most cameras were in common areas. The files had been partially corrupted. But one clip survived. Timestamp, 3:12 a.m. 1 hour before the murders. Footage shows the hallway outside Diego's room. A shadow moves past the door. But no one else was awake. No one else was alive. And then, 3 seconds later, Diego opens the door. And stares directly at the camera. He whispers something. Almost too soft to hear. Audio enhanced. I'm ready. Then, the camera cuts out. We open on the footage. No voices. No screams. Just the lever home. Dim lights flicker in the kitchen. Cereal bowls still on the table. Shoes by the door, too big, too small. A still life. Frozen in time. Then, layered under the silence, fragments of the 911 call. Words scattered like glass. They changed. I didn't want to do it. I had to. Cut to black. You hear it in her voice, Ms. Rangel, Diego's middle school art teacher. She's sitting at her desk, fighting tears. He was quiet, but thoughtful. One of those kids who made you work harder to understand him. You never think it'll be your student. She shows us Diego's sketchbook. One page, a pencil drawing of his family watching TV. Everyone smiling. Next page, same drawing, but the faces are gone. Replaced with blank ovals. In the corner, Diego had written. They wear the same faces, but they're not them anymore. She hadn't reported it. No one had. Detectives built the case minute by minute. 3:12 a.m., Diego opens his door. Whispers, "I'm ready." 3:13 a.m., security footage cuts out. 3:17 a.m., the first fatal wound is inflicted. 3:40 a.m., 911 call is placed. But something didn't fit. The timeline was too precise. Too calculated. And then they found it. A Google search in Diego's browser history, 2 weeks prior. How to break internal security camera loops. Suddenly, the glitch wasn't an accident. A second journal. Hidden under Diego's mattress. Different tone. Angrier. Less cryptic. Pages talk about the watching. One entry reads, "Mom's reflection blinked twice. I saw it. Mirrors aren't safe anymore." But then, the entries shift. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they were them. But it's too late now. That was the last page. The handwriting shakes near the end. A boy unraveling. Or realizing, too late, that he already had. We meet Mariana, a classmate. We used to joke about ghosts. Diego called his bedroom the gate. Thought it was funny. But, after winter break, he got weird. She says he stopped responding to texts. Started sitting alone. And once, when someone joked about his parents, he said, "They won't be here much longer anyway." Nobody pressed him. Nobody thought it mattered. Now they do. The internet blew up. True crime threads. Paranormal forums. One term kept coming back. Walk-ins. Spiritual lore says they're entities that take over a human body midlife. Diego had bookmarked pages about them. Had drawn diagrams of soul swaps and body hijacks. One theory? He wasn't psychotic. He was preparing for eviction. Or, believed he was. Dr. Rhea Patel, a forensic psychologist, says the answer may be less paranormal and more painful. This isn't about demons. It's about disconnection. Severe dissociative trauma. We've seen it in abuse survivors, but Diego's case is different. His trauma wasn't visible. But there was something. We meet Roberto Olives, a family friend. Mr. Leva, he wasn't who people thought. He had this rage in him. No reports. No arrests. But whispers. Roberto says Diego once came to their house with a bruised arm. Said he fell. But his eyes, man. Those eyes weren't lying. Now investigators wonder, was this about mirrors? Or was it about seeing what others refuse to look at? Remember the phrase from the Discord channel? They're not real. Turns out, it wasn't written by Diego. Digital forensics traced the original post to a user named Mir0RTH1N. IP address? A burner phone bought in Las Cruces. Not Diego's. But tied to his older cousin Mateo, expelled 2 years ago for violence. Guess what else? Mateo lived with the Levas for 8 months. Before suddenly disappearing. Detectives never considered Mateo. No fingerprints at the scene. No DNA. But there was a message buried in one of Diego's deleted texts. "I'm scared. You said they'd leave me alone." Sent to Mateo's number, never answered. Now, Mateo is missing. Phone disconnected. Vanished. Was he manipulating Diego? Feeding the delusion? Or was he the one Diego was trying to escape? Could Diego have planned everything? He researched camera loops. He hid journals. He knew exactly how to make it look like madness. Was this the act of a disturbed mind? Or a dangerous one? Some prosecutors think he knew what he was doing. That he played the role of the possessed teen. Because that narrative was safer than the truth. We go back to the house. This time, it's morning. Light pouring through the windows. The furniture is gone. The walls are painted over. But on one mirror, in faint etching, barely visible under the glass, a final message. 4 words. Who was I then? Diego Leva is awaiting trial. His lawyers are arguing mental illness. The state is pushing for adult charges. Mateo? Still missing. And the Leva house? It's being sold. The new owners don't know. The story is over. But the questions? They aren't. Over 3 million US teens experience serious mental illness every year. Fewer than 40% receive treatment. Early intervention saves lives. But what about when the signs don't show? What about when someone suffers in silence, and smiles through it. So now we ask you, what if Diego was trying to protect himself? What if Mateo planted the idea? What if no one ever asked the right question at the right time? What happens when a child cries out, and no one hears it? 3 people are gone. 1 boy remains. And the truth? Maybe it never lived in that house at all. Maybe it only lives here. In you. If this story shook you, share it. Let others know. Because silence kills. Subscribe now for more true crime stories that go beyond headlines, into the hearts of what we're too scared to face. Comment below. What do you believe happened that night? Was it possession? Psychosis? Trauma? Or something darker? Let's talk about it. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story shocked you, like and subscribe to True Crime Series for more cases that expose the darkest corners of human nature.